Welcome to the Arabian Traveler Poetry المسافر العربي للشعر باللغة العربية من إعداد وتقديم محمد بدر. This is your host Mohammad Bader, aka the Arabian Traveler. This episode will be in English with one poem read in Arabic. I'm excited this Saturday morning on April 5th, 2025 to have Amanda Lameche join me from her residence in Paris, France to talk about her latest poetry book, Self-Empowering Poetry. I want to thank all of my listeners across the globe. The podcast reached close to 100 countries and ranked number one in Jordan in January of 25 and ranked number one in November 2024 in three countries in Tunisia, Iraq, and Morocco. Within the last 30 days, it ranked number two in Iraq and tied for number three in Senegal and the United Arab Emirates. You can listen to my podcast via Spotify and Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, now YouTube and Audible. This is an ad-free episode and I do not get monetized, so I appreciate if you can support me by following my podcast, especially on Spotify. Amanda Lameche, better known by her stage name Amanda, was born on the 24th of March of 1985. She is a French-born Swedish pop singer. Lameche won TV4, a children's talent competition where she imitated Janet Jackson when she was 10 years old. She was discovered, but her breakthrough came 5 years later when she was 15. She became the first female pop singer to get a recording contract with Madonna's record label Maverick Records and sang the song You Don't Stand a Chance of the soundtrack to the film Rugrats in Paris. In 2001, Lameche recorded her debut album Everybody Doesn't, which was released the following year. The song of the same name, Everybody Doesn't, was her first and only song on the chart on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 81. Currently, Amanda moved to writing poetry, and today's episode will focus on her poetic journey. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are welcome. Yeah.
Well, that was an introduction. That's an old introduction from my previous life, a long time ago.
Yeah, and I was hoping maybe you can update. That's what I was able to find online, and so maybe we can start by having you tell me a little bit more, fill in what I missed and how you moved into the current role. And
of course, well, that was I started when I was very young, so I'm half French, half Swedish, and my whole youth or childhood I was in dancing or singing. I loved everything that was music, art, dancing, especially dancing, and that's how I got into music. But that was I was a teenager when I was, so I was a lot between. So I lived in Stockholm, and I'm born in France, and then that was a different a different world. But I was traveling a lot then between the States and Sweden, and then afterwards I quit and I continued my studies, which was important to me, and go back to my family in Sweden. And so then I studied international relations because I love. Mm-hmm. I studied international law, actually, which I was very interested in because I'm all about peace and love and like between the countries. And since I speak, I thought, okay, I speak languages, and it's all about understanding each other. And I think that comes also from my mother. So I think, so I studied in Sweden in the University of Stockholm and Lund, and then I went to Brighton for an exchange in Sussex University in Brighton, and then I completely different life, moved to Spain.
Oh wow!
So I've had different lives. This is why I don't speak about it a lot, because I've done so many different things. But then I lived in Spain, and then I moved to Paris in 2011, which was my father was very happy because he finally had a daughter who came back to France.
Okay.
So I saw more my father then, and I have a brother in France also, and then I have all my sisters and my mother in Sweden. I started in real estate and opened my own company. So I've done real estate in Paris now for 14 years. So that's really a background, but
Yeah.
I started to write poetry. So I've always had this love for writing, I would say, but not necessarily. I mean, if you would ask my younger self when I was a teenager, I would say that's so cheesy, poetry. No,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was more about like, I was more maybe performing, but in a different way. And I love, the more I've gotten older, I would say, I mean, it is a part of who I am. And I totally embrace it today. So what happened was that in 2020, I was alone for the first time in my life. So I've done so many things, travel here and there, and always been surrounded by a lot of people. And in 2020, just before the lockdown in Paris, we had to decide where to go or what to do. And I ended up, so I was alone in my apartment in Paris. And it was after a breakup, and I started to write. And that's when I really started to connect with myself, and
Yeah.
without the external voices, but just starting to write. And I found a lot of love, compassion when I was writing, and everything that I wrote was rhyming, and it came naturally, but it always rhymed.
And
So
did you write
basic,
it in English or did you
yes.
write it in? Okay, that's great.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I don't write in Swedish much,
Hmm.
but I actually now, it's funny because now I made a little challenge for myself these 3 past weeks. And I thought, okay, I will write a poem a day,
Uh-huh.
because I wanted to be consistent in it. But what happened was I wrote 100 poems.
Oh, wow. That's
And that
great.
was
Yeah.
a lot. And so I started to play with it, and I started to write. Now I've written, like this past week, I wrote many poems in Spanish because I love the language,
Yeah,
also
yeah.
Spanish. And so it's something that I enjoy. But when I started to write, and I would say some sort of maybe guidance,
Yeah, yeah.
it's in English.
Yes, no, that's wonderful. Yeah, I ask you because I sometimes my native language Arabic, so I end up writing in Arabic, but a lot of my poetry now I naturally write it in English. And so I translate a lot of poetry. I enjoyed translating your poem, Love, and I just wanted to say, like, I want to thank you for sharing your lovely book, Self-Empowering Poetry. I want the audience to pick it up and look at it. I know it's on Amazon, but I wanted to say like what I liked about it. It was really straightforward and to the point. It was very clever and impactful. I like the spacing in the book, and I like that it just was decluttered. There was like really the spacing in there was easy to read. I know I tend to write like 5, 6 pages long. I really like that you did just had like a shorter poems and the organization of the book was really wonderful. And so I wonder if you are able to want to read us, like if we can start with one of your favorite poems in
Of
there. Do you want to
course.
read?
Well, I just want to thank you first, because that was very nice of you. And what I want to say in regards to that was that it's actually, well, I don't know if, since it's a podcast, you won't see,
Yeah.
but I wanted to show you, because the book is exactly how I mean, I think I have at least 50 note blocks today that are filled with poetry. So I thought I have to start somewhere. And I wanted to start in the most authentic way, which
Yes.
was the first poems that I wrote. Because I wanted to be like a continued, no, how do you say? I would like it to be a beginning,
Yes.
and then uh, throughout the writing, the evolution, because I recognize when you say, I mean, I can write poems that are many pages also. And sometimes you want to, my intention with doing like this is that I want it to be easily read.
Yes.
and I want people to whomever it might speak to, that they make their own, that it will speak to them in the way that it speaks to them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No,
And
that's wonderful.
and in regards to this was my little first poetry book.
Oh,
So
nice.
actually, exactly in the same it's actually exactly what I wrote in my notebook.
Yeah, same
And
order, you mean? Like, is it like in
same order, at
sequence?
least in the beginning.
Hmm.
So if you would like me to read one, I could actually start with the first one, because it really was the first one.
Yeah,
Uh,
please do. Yeah.
and I will see, because I wrote here, it was from March 25th, 2020. And I said, so this is what I said: restless but not focused, focus and you won't be restless. And I said it was a note to myself, because we couldn't walk out. We just had to stay at home, basically. And for me, I'm a very active person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I need to get out or like do things. So I think also that's what poetry helped me with. And so it said, surrender, embrace yourself. So this was the first poem that I wrote, and it was in regards to this maybe guilt that I felt in regards to the breakup. And
Yes.
then when I started to write, it was really soothing. And it's a short one, and I will say it's the first one in the poetry compilation. And
Hmm.
here it goes. Self-love, self-guilt, insecurities we've built. Wanting to please creates an unease. Giving away is not always okay. Sort yourself out. See what you're about. Wanting to be enough by keeping unhealthy stuff. Find what's in you will help others too. But first things first, you come first.
That's great. Yeah. That is, and is that you entitled the book Self-Empowering Poetry. Can you tell me a little bit more on that? I can tell with that poem you are choosing to have that self-love and attention to self. Can you talk a little bit more on that and what was going in your mind when you have
Of
the
course.
title?
Well, I think that's always been my message. I believe that we are all unique, and I see very easily the good parts in people, or when maybe they don't see it in themselves. And however, sometimes it's more difficult to see it in ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in regards to the title, I mean, I write so much, and I was speaking to this girl, Julie. This was in February 2024. And I was, because I'm all about, like, I have to learn more about structure to be consistent. This is why I made this challenge to myself. And I thought,
Hmm.
okay, I will do a little every day because of this book. Which one is it? Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
you do a
Yeah.
little, where you will find progress. But me, I'm very much, I do it all or I don't.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
all about finding the balance. And so I told her, I love writing. It's so easy for me because I really love writing. And she said, okay, so write a book. And I thought,
Hmm.
what? I could never, or like me, and then all the insecurities came up, but I saw it as a play. And she said, okay, let's see in 3 weeks again. And like the day after, I messaged her, and I said, oh, I already know what it's going to be called. And I had already written down self-empowering poetry, and I had already found, like, the book was made, like, the book, it's a small compilation of only 28 pages. But I wrote it in 2-3 days. So it was ready. So for me, I think I would love I love seeing people empower themselves, but it starts within, and it starts with us. And I see this little small start of compilation, like as a gentle, hopefully a gentle push to see that you have a friend and that
Uh-huh.
you're not alone. I
Yes.
think my main message is, and always has been, and what I feel when I write my poetry, is that I never feel alone. You're always guided, you're always supported, but maybe sometimes you just need to listen.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, yep. That's my feeling is like give me music and give me poetry, and I never feel alone.
yeah,
That's wonderful. Um, I wanted to read. I translated one of your poem, the one I believe called "Love" or "On Love," and I just maybe to give you time to find it. I have it translated into Arabic. I like to read it in Arabic because most of my audience either speak Arabic, French, or English, and then I was wondering if you can read it in English when I get done. Would that work for you?
absolutely. With pleasure.
It's called Love. In Arabic, love means الحب. الحب. الحب سيأتي يا عزيزتي. لا تخافي. في الحقيقة إنه هنا في داخلنا من حولنا. الحب هو في كل مكان. ابتسمي. ابتسمي وسيظهر لك بسهولة. إنه لطيف مثل النسيم الهادئ. ستعرفينه. إنه دائما آمن، وسر الأمان هو عدم الخداع. أحبي من كل قلبك، من أنقى مكان، وبعدها ستعرفي الحب عندما تشاهدين وجهه. It's very beautiful. It came really good in Arabic. I have to say, I translate a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Translated some of the work of great poets, and I like that it's straightforward and very simple, easy to understand. So I was wondering if you can read it in English because our my audience love to hear things in English too.
I will. I'm very honored that you translated it into Arabic, and it sounded wonderful. So the poem is called Love. Love is coming, dear. Have no fear. Actually, it's already here. Love is within and all around. Love is everywhere to be found. Smile, and it appears with ease. It is gentle like a soft breeze. You will recognize it. Keep believing. The secret of faith is never deceiving. Love with your heart from the purest place, and you will recognize love when you see its face.
That's amazing. Um, what were you thinking when you wrote that one? What was happening for you?
Mm, I so I don't actually remember,
Hmm.
but I never think about what I will write when I start to write, and I
Uh-huh.
think it's for me it comes through as messages
Yep.
that are really. This is why what I say that I don't necessarily feel that I'm alone when I write. Like I feel a loving, like gentle presence. And
Uh-huh.
like this one, I wrote it into like in a couple of minutes.
Yep.
So it's more. I don't know what you say. I wouldn't say like channeling, but it's more like it just like comes through. It's like music when it's really
Yep.
like an inspiration or you hear a note, and it just I never change anything when I write. I just let my pen and I feel and I hear the rhymes and I just like have a smile on my face when I write it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and this poem, I know that I like most often when I write, I'm very pleased at the last sentence, and then I always write, "Oh, I wrote this in 2 minutes," or like I wrote this really quickly. But when you write it really quickly, it's because it comes from inspiration.
Yep.
It comes from this kind of source, so it's not necessarily something I can write. I mean, I have later on written where you use more your mind or you use more like to try to maybe more your intelligence or
Yep.
your experiences. But when it's poems like this, it's just it's I think what everyone maybe means when they speak about love or like when they get
Yep.
this loving
Yep.
feeling.
Yeah, and you said you were having you were going through the COVID time and then in relationships. How are things for you now in terms of relationships? That you was there? Uh, are you feeling whole with the poetry? Did that Do you, was there any,
Um,
did that help you go
so
through the difficult times is what I mean?
absolutely writing, because uh, I don't read poetry. I've never read poetry,
Hmm.
but I feel, and I was always encouraged. I had an ex-boyfriend when I was in Spain, and he was always, because I wrote him poems like about our story and so on, and he always encouraged me, like, you need to continue to write. And I thought, or in school or things like that. But I never saw it as something that I necessarily needed. But today I know that if there's something that I go through, like, for example, these 100 poems now that I wrote in like
Yeah.
2 weeks, so much came out that I
Yeah.
didn't even know that was important for me, or that I still thought about, or in different languages even.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But during that time, during in 2020, absolutely, I felt so much joy. And so, I mean, I think you can see in the poetry, in these poems, that they're quite innocent. They're
Hmm.
innocent and very, yes, loving and supporting. And that's how I felt, and
Yeah.
that's how I would love the reader to feel if it speaks to them. Yes.
Great. That's great. Uh, is there any other poem you like to read for us today? That any?
Not necessarily that I have in mind, but I would love to say, because I still want, I want once more to thank you for
Mhm.
that lovely translation into Arabic. And my father, I will send it to my father, because my father is of origin. Um, he is Arabic of origin. So
Mhm.
when I was little, my dream was to learn Arabic.
Uh-huh.
But he thought, no, there's too many languages here. Like,
You did.
you already speak, like, just like,
Yep.
and we have always had this discussion, because I
Yeah,
said, like,
yeah.
I really, really wanted to learn. But he said that he was very, because he's really, I mean, he's lived in France his whole
Yeah, yeah.
life. But he said, actually, why I didn't want to teach you was that I felt very I feel very embarrassed of my Arabic, how I speak, and so
Hmm.
I didn't. But I will send
Yeah.
that poem to him, because I haven't actually. You're the first one I speak about this poetry book out loud, because what
Mhm.
happened was, so this was last year, in regards to this little
Mhm.
compilation of poems. But what happened was, so I love the creativity part, but then I had to, like, I don't know, like, I have a MacBook Pro, like, I had to, like, figure out with words. So I
Uh-huh.
love that when you say that it's really easily read, because I think it took me so long,
Yeah, yeah.
and also to find a cover. And so I had to do it myself, and I felt very much
Yep.
overwhelmed. Uh, and so it took a year. So
Yeah, yeah.
just that I had it in the back of my head, and
Hmm.
and then I actually put it on Amazon. So I
Yeah.
self-published 2 months ago, and I haven't told anyone.
Yeah, yeah.
So I told my sisters and my mother, and I said, okay, so it's up there. But then I was very much afraid, or, like, you're very vulnerable. Also, maybe,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe will people like it or not? And then you feel like, oh, what? Why am I really doing this? Or, like, so
Yeah.
many um, insecurities come up. So actually, I needed this time, like these 2 months. Now that we're talking,
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
has a
That's
good.
wonderful. Yeah. No, it may
Yes.
be in, I don't know if in psychology, like Jungian theories, there's something called collective unconscious or subconscious. And I found myself writing poems about the desert, but I never lived in the desert. And so knowing that a lot of Arabs, have lived in deserts, it just comes to you. And so I suspect in your collective subconscious that Arabs are great poetry writers, and that maybe in somehow is coming through your collective unconscious, basically. And I noticed your,
I love that. I
yeah,
love that heritage that, unfortunately, I don't know much about, but there's so much. I think it's actually, yes, I think the language, but I don't know it,
Mhm.
is very poetic. And there's something there's like hidden mysteries
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in
yeah,
in the language, in the culture. Um, so it's something that I'm
yeah.
very much.
And which Arabic background your dad is from? And I notice your middle name is it Jamila?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yes.
Yeah.
Because I was, it's funny.
Mhm.
My father obviously wanted a son for a firstborn, and it would have been Mohammed.
Uh-huh.
But my mother is Swedish, and
Uh-huh.
so my mother said, "Okay, we will take something Arabic
Hmm.
for my middle name because my
Hmm.
name is Amanda, and so
Hmm.
it's from my great grandmother in Sweden."
Hmm. Okay.
Just to balance it out, yes.
No,
But
no,
I
that's
love Jamila also, yeah. But
Jamila,
I
yeah.
never use it. No.
Yeah, no, I just so yeah. So and you said your mom was learning Arabic? Is that
Yes,
so?
and
Oh.
so this was so funny because when you sent me that you had, so my mother is Swedish, and
Mm.
my mother speaks 7 languages.
Oh
My mother
wow.
is really impressive with languages, and when I she told me just like in February, or no, in March, she told me, "Oh, I've started classes now for Arabic, but there's so many different,
Hmm.
how do you say,
Dialects, yeah, yeah.
dialects or
Hmm.
so." So I don't think it because I sent her and she didn't understand yet, but
Hmm.
she will read it in the course in their class.
Yeah, yeah.
But my
No,
mother is lives in Sweden still, and
yeah.
she's very, I was going to say, she's very very Swedish, but very, very international also. Very, she's been traveling a lot, and yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I think the I have a question for because you're obviously a singer, and I have a question for you. Like,
Yeah.
if you were to sing any of your poems, which one would you sing?
Oh, that's a good question. I have to look at them because then I
Yeah.
don't remember very much. But I think I can't say I
Hmm.
love Follow Your Star. I love Change. I mean I love them all because I've written them ups and downs. Maybe it would be ups and downs. That life
Hmm.
is about ups and downs also, and how can you appreciate one without the other? But I think maybe that will come
Maybe
also
that
because I do love singing also. So yeah.
that's at some day that will come. Yeah. Well, yeah, I wanted to thank you and for giving us some of your time here. I know it's probably around 6:30 p.m. in Paris, and where people want to get out and about, and so appreciate
Oh
your time.
no, thank
And
you, thank
for
you for.
my audience, again, you're listening to the Arabian Traveler Poetry, and our guest here is Amanda Lameche. I encourage you to look her up, look at her poetry book. It's on Amazon, and it's called Self Empowering Poetry. Um, Thank you for spending part of your Saturday with me. Appreciate that. And uh, until we meet again, see you later.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye, Amanda. Take care.